Next Out for Adventure by Timothy Basil Ering. For as long as anyone could remember, the Wiggleskins would not leave the mud. While the currents flowed back and forth over their heads, they all lived by a simple system. Necks out to eat, and necks in to hide. That's how it always was. Until one day, when a young Wiggleskin named Edwin asked his mom a very big question. What would happen if we flowed with the current? The other Wiggleskins laughed, but Edwin's mom held him close. "Don't let them bother you, son," she answered. "Stick your neck out for adventure, like you always do." But before Edwin could reply, a dark shadow fell across the Wiggleskin bed. All the Wiggleskins fell silent as the mud trembled. Then suddenly, two huge, filthy feet appeared, and worse yet, a terrible smell you'd never forget. "Necks in to hide!" the Wiggleskins all screeched. But sadly, it was too late to hide. Soon, all the Wiggleskins were gone. All except one. Why was Edwin left behind? No one knows. Edwin's neck was pulled way in. He was dreadfully afraid. Long, lonely hours passed, but no one returned. As Edwin waited and waited, he felt the current steadily push against him, encouraging him to search for the others. "I can't move," he told the current. "I'm stuck in my shell." And that, my friends, is when Edwin thought of his mom's last words to him. Necks out for adventure. So, Edwin gathered up every bit of courage he had. With no one around to witness this unheard of event, he pushed at both sides of his shell and, oh boy, off it went! Edwin's skin wiggled as the water gently lifted him up and carried him away. "Mom? Dad?" Edwin called out as he drifted over the seafloor. "Anybody?" He floated along with magnificent squid-bellied lice, glimmering golden-eyed silverstones, and a red-spotted scrintleberry leaf. But then, without warning, the force from a tremendous wave sucked Edwin's belly up over his neck. Up, up, up Edwin went. Splash! The big wave spit Edwin from the sea onto the land. For the first time ever, Edwin's toes touched dry sand. "Where am I?" Edwin asked the wave. But the wave didn't answer. It just kept curling and breaking onto the shore. So Edwin began to walk. He walked until he could not take one more step under the scorching hot sun. Completely exhausted and delirious from the heat, Edwin flopped over face first. But then, as if in a scary dream, he smelled a smell, that same terrible smell, the one he'd never forget. Alas, Edwin saw the truth. The stink came from a hideous, hornly scratcher, a Wiggleskin's worst nightmare. Well, well, yes indeed, a scrintleberry leaf, just what I need. With one swipe of his giant toe, the scratcher flicked the scrintleberry leaf and Edwin into his moldy sack. The stinky creature skipped off, whistling and singing to himself, while Edwin flipped and jostled inside the sack. Scrintleberry leaves, my favorite spice, will season up my meals scrumptiously nice. Then, without warning, Edwin fell neck first into a cooking pot full of eel skins, fish butter, and squid broth. Went the sharpening wheel, and the scratcher sang a horrible little song. Wiggle skins, so tender and sweet. Fresh boiled wiggle skins, my favorite treat. Edwin screamed. The scratcher snatched Edwin from the pot. Wow, what do we have here in my stew? It's a delicious wiggle skin, already shucked out of the blue. Edwin didn't know how he'd thought of it, but suddenly he had a plan. He stretched out his neck and squirted that nasty old Hornley Scratcher right in the eye. And Hornley Scratchers hate to be squirted in the eye. The Scratcher fell back, flipping his pot of stew into the air. Edwin quickly scurried for freedom. He dashed straight outside, off the step, around the corner of the shack, and oh my, you'll never guess what stood in front of him this time. It was a rusted, lonely cage packed full of weeping Wiggleskins. "Mom!" Edwin shouted. "Dad! Edwin!" they all cried. "Next out, everybody!" Edwin exclaimed. "The Hornley Scratcher will be here any second to gobble us all up." The Wiggleskins realized what they had to do, and one by one, they shucked their shells too. "To the shore!" Edwin commanded. "Run like you've never run before!" Which, in fact, none of them ever had. Although they were very dry and thirsty, the Wiggleskins ran like the dickens, and a glorious thing happened as they ran. A cloud appeared, and then another, and it began to rain. Oh boy, it poured. "We're gonna make it," cried one Wiggleskin. "We can do it," cheered another. The mighty ocean was glad to welcome them back. At one time, they had laughed at Edwin, but they admired him today. And necks out for adventure is what those brave Wiggleskins now say. The end.